This weekend, Bill Butt of St. John's saw something he was not expecting, a coyote near his house on Wishingwell Road. This is how he described what he saw.
I came out of my house just about right here. I was about 150 feet away from where I saw this animal. I looked up the road and I saw him on the lawn up here on our neighbour's lawn there on the corner of Tita's Place and Wishingwell Road. And it was only about 15-second sighting. Went in the house to get my camera, came back out, and it was gone. And I knew it was a coyote because I've seen them before, like I'm playing on golf courses in British Columbia, and I've seen coyotes before. I wasn't mistaken it for a dog.
That's Bill Butt of St. John's describing what he says was a coyote right in St. John's this weekend. Now, Mike McGraw is a senior biologist with the provincial government's Wildlife Division. He is on the line right now from St. John's. Thank you for joining us.
Good afternoon, Ramona.
Are you surprised by that sighting right in the middle of the city?
It's quite fairly unusual, but we get the occasional sighting right throughout the city, including the ghouls, and we had a sighting, unconfirmed sighting in Black Marsh Road there week before last. So it's becoming more and more common, and it probably will get more common as the coyote numbers start to increase.
Now, Mike, should Mr. Butt assume that coyote is going to keep hanging around in his neighborhood?
Fairly, that would be quite unusual for that to happen, in that most of the coyotes in this province are really wide-ranging animals, and the animal you see today could be several kilometers or dozens of kilometers away the day after or the next day, right? So that's we're going to have to expect the occasional sighting of animals roaming through the city over the next few years as the coyote numbers start to increase. Yeah.
Yeah, and you keep mentioning that. We'll come back to that in a second. But I'm just curious as to what would bring a coyote to that specific area of the city. There aren't a lot of trees around there, so why would a coyote go there?
Well, Ramona, I guess coyotes pretty well can live anywhere, and they're found in most major cities in North America, some of the green belts. And they do make the occasional foray into backyards in most other cities, and this is probably what's happening here. If it was an actual coyote, it would probably be searching the backyards for, pet food and that kind of a thing, edible garbage and that kind of stuff. So they do and are noted to roam through cities like that on occasion, but it's not very common.
What about small pets themselves? Would they be interested in eating them?
Certainly small dogs, but for primarily cats, it seems like roaming cats at night, those are animals that would be fairly vulnerable to predation by coyotes at night, right? Yeah.
What is happening with sightings of coyotes outside the Avalon Peninsula on the island? Yeah,
well, Ramona, the numbers of coyotes are still increasing across the province. Ever since they came to the province in the mid-1980s, their numbers have slowly been increasing, and of course the Avalon Peninsula is the last place where the numbers are starting to increase. So their numbers are increasing, we think, over the last 2 to 3 years in response to the prey base, which is primarily right now would be moose carrion and snowshoe hares or rabbits. And if anyone knows, most people know they're in the woods, that the rabbit numbers are really super abundant over the last couple of years, and I think we're pretty well confident that the coyote numbers are responding to that numerically over the last couple of years, and their numbers are increasing due to the increased food base. Tell me about the recent sighting in Port aux Basques. We had one. I think we had one of the papers there call me a couple of days ago and last week, and there was a sighting of a coyote roaming downtown Port aux Basques. And it's the same type of thing. People are not used to seeing coyotes in that situation in urban areas like that, and so we're going to have to expect to see that more often. But it'll be only an occasional sighting like that. And what about the situation in Labrador? We get the occasional sighting in Labrador, and there's usually one or two turned in the harvest in Labrador, but their numbers are are extremely low in Labrador, and we don't expect their numbers to increase to any great extent because of the presence of wolves in Labrador, and snowshoe hare numbers are only abundant in small in localized areas. So we don't expect coyote numbers to really increase dramatically in Labrador. We will get the occasional animal moving in from the west, moving east from the Quebec area.
But you have been making it very clear the numbers are going up on the island.
Yes, slowly.
How high do you think they could go?
I think we're pretty well starting to peak in numbers right now. We're not going to see we sort of track the home range sizes of coyotes and the harvest rate, and right now we're pretty well on par. Our harvest in Newfoundland on the island is pretty well on par with what they're taking in Prince Edward Island. To give you a perspective, it's a much smaller island. Our densities are probably definitely much lower in Newfoundland, and they probably will not increase to the point where they're as abundant in Nova Scotia or PEI.
And why is that?
I think it's related to the prey base. We have our small mammal prey base is fairly low in diversity. We don't have the voles and shrews and skunks and things like that they have on the mainland, and also the redback voles and things like that, and a lot of the other smaller animals. We have fewer numbers and lower densities of that prey base, and therefore we would expect that coyote numbers would never reach the same abundance they would be in Nova Scotia or New Brunswick.
But at the same time, you are expecting the occasional sightings in urban or suburban areas to go up. Should people be afraid?
I wouldn't be too concerned about the occasional sighting of an animal. We're going to have to live with that. These animals are pretty well island-wide now, and they're found in all the urban and rural areas across the province. The one thing I would be caution people is that they shouldn't leave pet food out or edible garbage in their backyard or anything like that. If there is an animal that is repeatedly showing up in a particular area and it's not showing its natural fear of people, those are the animals that we would be more vigilant about and take action against those animals. The occasional sighting we're going to have to live with.
You know, I think a lot of people didn't worry too much about coyotes and their possible danger until that young woman was killed in Cape Breton by coyotes. So what's the difference here?
Well, the only difference would be the numbers of coyotes in Newfoundland would be much lower in there. Also, in that particular case, it was in a park situation where there's no hunting or trapping, so those particular animals were pretty well used to people, and they were accustomed to getting food from people. So those are the animals that lose their fear of humans are the animals that we have to be vigilant about. So that's the difference in Newfoundland. If we keep these coyotes wild, I don't think we'll ever have any problems with these animals.
Thanks a lot for this information. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Ramona.
Mike McGraw is a senior biologist with the Wildlife Division of the provincial government.